Greetings and thank you for joining me on this demonstration for the object variable in SSIS. Just so I can give you a little background so we can get a good understanding of exactly how the object variable works, I'm going to lay the foundation of what we're going to accomplish in this demonstration. I'm a support technician for Pragmatic Works, and I have a list of associates that I've been working with, in particular to Task Factory Components. It's a third-party tool that Pragmatic Works does offer, and I want to send them emails. And I want it to be done in a fashion where it feels personalized, but not have to individually do this for every individual. Well, the task that we're going to use with this third-party component is the Task Factory Advanced Email and SMS, which we see inside this for each loop container. This is what's going to allow me to create an email, but the magic of all this is going to happen with the object variable. That is how we'll be able to make one template, so to speak, but infuse some variables that will dynamically change, making it feel personalized for each of the individuals. Now that we understand what we're going to accomplish, let's get into the nitty-gritty details. In this data flow task, we're going to see that we're simply pulling from a SQL Server table, and it's a small table just with 4 rows, but these are individual details about the associates I'm speaking of. So in this case, Ivan Nunez, I'm going to talk to him about this Task Factory component. Here's his email address, specifically a case number associated with him. All this is personalized to that individual. So these 4 items, what we're going to do is we're going to send them down into an out-of-the-box destination called the record set destination. There is one item that's required for this, and that is the creation of the object variable, which is what this is all about. Very easy. In the variables option, simply hit the add variable button, give that variable a name, and in the data type, it will be object. When you do this, you will see that the value immediately goes to system.object. This cannot be modified, and if you try to place an expression against this, it'll change the data type of the variable. The reason for this is how data is stored in the object variable. It's very different from all the rest. As you can see, we had 4 rows from a SQL Server table. All those items are going to be loaded into this object variable as a record set. So they'll all be available to us. That being said, you can't just plug in an object variable in any expression, because it's not a singular value of information as we normally use with other variables. You can see them here as examples. The key that where this occurs is how we take that information out. I'll show you that here in a second, but let's look at the destination. A very simple setup. Simply point to your object variable that you want to have loaded with this information, and dictate of the input columns that you're bringing in which ones you actually want to populate the object variable with. You'll see I've omitted the last option because in this package, this ETL solution, at this moment, I don't believe I need that information. But it's as easy as clicking and removing, and it will be added right into the list. The one thing that should be taken importantly is the order of the items you've added. It is ordinal, and there'll be a moment later on when we'll see we need to map these values to other user-defined variables, and that's important so you can know exactly what data is being populated. And loading a record set really is that easy. This is a very simple example, but at the core, that's how you populate the variable. Before we go into the for each loop, where we actually parse out that information, we're going to look. I've created multiple variables, user-defined, that are going to catch those items that are parsed out of the object variable. So we saw in that first row, Ivan Nunez, first, last name, email. I've created those user-defined variables here. Mostly string. I have one int 32. Inside this for each loop, we're going to be using a for each ADO enumerator, which all you need to do is then select your object variable, and we're going to map those items. So what we're saying to the for each loop is, here's my object variable, here's the first row, and it's going to individually, each of those columns, you define where you want that to go. So I've matched them up, similar named items, first name to first name, last name to last name, so far and so forth. And we can see the index here, as we talked about being ordinal. That's very important. You wouldn't want to map your email to the first name. It'd be a little tricky if someone else took over that project. Once that mapping is set and done, you've created variables now where the values will be changing on every iteration of the loop. So that means on the first iteration, we're going to have Ivan, we're going to have Nunez, we're going to have his email. We can use that in whatever fashion we like. So really, inside this for each loop, it's designer's choice. You can, whatever you want to accomplish, you can utilize that. So in this example, we talked about the task. I've created a generic email here, but I've injected my user-defined variables in certain key points so that it will change these items and make that email feel personalized. The only other item that I've added here that is not being used in the body of the email, but is being pulled in from the object variable, is the email address, because I want to make sure on every run, every iteration of the loop, when Ivan gets his email, it's going to go to Ivan's email, and the next one that goes to Ken is going to be Ken's email. And that's simply done with an expression. All I've done is pick the send-to property, and I've made the expression equal to the value of the email variable. And that really is how simple it is. What I can do now is we're going to execute this, and you're going to see the change in flow of the data as each iteration occurs. On the first execution, we can see the values are populated with the first result set, the first row of that object variable. If I were to hit progress this past this breakpoint, we're going to see that these values change. And it should be Kenneth. Perfect. We see everything's changed, and everything matches up according to that information that I've pulled from the SQL table. Next, we'll have Sean, and lastly would be Manuel. And as this is going through, let me pull up exactly what it's going to look like. So you can see the email just here. This is the one that was sent to me, and we can see the outcome and how everything has been personalized for me. Very simply done. More variables can be utilized. It's really up to your choice. And the idea of sending out emails also specific to what I wanted to accomplish. But you can see that once an object variable is populated, you can then utilize it as you see fit. And it is very important to note the object variable is only populated at runtime and execution. So when this package finishes, I can't use this variable in another package, let's say, if this variable is global. It only becomes available, it's only populated with those specified rows of information upon execution. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join me today and hope that this assisted you in understanding the object variable. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to leave some comments on my blog. Thank you very much.